Okay, so we should be live right now. So welcome everybody. How is everyone doing tonight? Is everything all right? Excited for a good grasp of knowledge? Let me know in the chat. How are you feeling? Where are you from? We'll wait a few more seconds until 7 p.m. Central European Time rings to begin our presentation and our live webinar. Hi, Punjan from New York City. Nice. So I guess it's quite early for you. Definitely earlier than in Warsaw. Hi, Tommy. Hi, nice to see you. Okay, let's wait a few more seconds and then we'll start. Ethiopia. Yes. Hi. Hi, Said. Hi, nice to see you. All right. So it's 1 minute past 7 p.m. here in Warsaw. So I guess we may start our webinar. So let me just formally welcome you all to our presentation titled Hackers Are Here, How to Stay Cyber Safe at Home and at Work. This is a presentation delivered as a part of our CQURE Academy initiative, where we deliver cybersecurity awareness courses, such as this one. And this particular one we are delivering to for the end of October. And since October is internationally recognized as Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so this is why we are delivering this presentation. But more about it will tell you Paula, our CEO and founder, in a small message she left for us.
Hi there, I'm Paula Jędruszkiewicz. I'm a cybersecurity expert and founder of CQURE and CQURE Academy, also Microsoft MVP and RD. Our lifelong mission at CQURE is taking care of cybersecurity. We focus not only on supporting companies, but also their families and friends. I would like to invite you for our webinar entitled Hackers Here, How to Stay Cyber Safe at Home and at Work. During this session, you will discover practical cybersecurity tips that you can implement right away. We will discuss modern forms of cyber threats. It will include spoofing, deepfakes, omnichannel attacks, and attacks targeting children. We will also demonstrate how to protect your privacy and secure personal data in everyday's life. You can join us for free, and I can already reveal that more materials like this are coming soon. Discover what steps to take to protect yourself and your family. Enjoy and stay secure.
Awesome. So thank you, Paula. And let me now introduce myself very briefly. So my name is Mateusz. I am working at CQURE as a cybersecurity analyst. And joining me is Kate and Dorothy, who will be answering any questions you might have on the YouTube chat. So if you have any questions, either directly about the presentation or any other questions related to cybersecurity or what we do at CQURE, please pop them in the chat, in the YouTube chat, and they will be there to answer you. So if you would like to know more already about us, about CQURE Academy, you can either scan this QR code or browse to the CQUREacademy.com website to learn more about who we are, what we do, and what do we offer, and how you can benefit from it. Speaking about the agenda for today, we've got 7 points we'll be focusing on. First of all, we'll talk about what is social engineering and about some relationship building methods that cyber criminals use in the first point of our presentation titled Introduction to Cybersecurity. Then we'll discover some forms of attacks, such as phishing, its types, and omnichannel attacks, and also deepfakes and some practical methods of recognizing them. Then we'll be talking about email security, how to keep your email mailboxes secure. We'll then explore some characteristics of malicious attachments and malicious links, and I will show you some examples of scams that were impersonating some well-known companies. Then we'll talk a little bit about passwords, how do cyber criminals steal passwords, what's a passphrase, and how you can create strong passwords, how you can also leverage password managers to store your passwords securely, and why multi-factor authentication is important. Then we will talk about safe usage of social media, how to keep your information private in there. Then we'll focus about children safety in cyberspace, and also mobile security at home and on the go, and how you can basically be aware of the risks that basically are posed by you having your mobile phone configured insecurely or being unaware of the threats that might happen. Before we jump into the first part of our presentation, just a little side note. If you will have any problems with watching this webinar, first of all, try refreshing the page or using another browser. If the transmission on YouTube breaks for any kind of reason, we do not expect it to do so, but in case of it happening, you can also go to the link visible on the screen. I'm sure that either Kate or Dorothy will paste the same link on the chat, where the actual YouTube live will be embedded. If you will have any other problems, you can also contact us at info@cqureacademy.com. All right, so let's start. And we will start with the introduction to cybersecurity. And like I said, we'll start with talking a little bit about social engineering. So social engineering can be defined in various different ways. But in the field of cybersecurity, we say that it is a use of physiological means and manipulation methods to extort some specific information and to persuade people to perform specific actions. And this is basically the core of any actions that cyber criminals perform, either targeted at the companies or targeted at individual people. We also have to know the types of the threats that are around us and to which we can fall victim to, because being aware of them happening is the first step of being protected, and is also the first step of protecting our families, our colleagues, and also our customers. So let's think a little bit now. What happens when someone is calling us or someone is initiating a contact with us? So we usually ask ourselves 4 basic questions. Who is this person? What do they need from us? How long will the action take? And are they dangerous? Very basic 4 questions which we are asking ourselves about the situation we are being put in. And cyber criminals know that we are asking ourselves those questions, and they are trained to basically use those social engineering methods to answer those questions in a very clever way, so we will fall victim to their actions. And they do it by using some methods of building relationships with us. First of all, they will definitely introduce some artificial time constraints. Usually, they will tell us that the action that we will need to do will need to be done very fast, because if we will take a long time, if it will take some time, then we will lose either some money or some resources that we possess. They will use some emotional subjects to basically make us believe in the topic a little bit more. They also like to acknowledge other people, so they will support our decisions. They will praise us, so we will basically be easier to persuade. They will exploit something which is called quid pro quo, or something for something rule. They will give us some information. Either they will introduce themselves in a very specific way, so we will feel a need to also introduce ourselves with, for example, including our job role or the company we work for. And they also use the rule, which is called the rule of reciprocal altruism, which is similar to the rule, which is similar to the method that I've talked in the number 4. But this time, cyber criminals like to also include some more sensitive topics. For example, when a person is lonely, he may feel more tied to the person that gives him the time and the space to talk about their feelings. And this is how cyber criminals can manipulate those people. But overall, we can say that there are two common elements of the communication which are led by criminals. And first of all, they will be introducing urgency to our actions. They will tell us that everything we do will need to be done fast, and then they will insist of us violating the standard procedures and doing something against our common knowledge. And this is all to exploit basically our common knowledge and common mechanisms. How we can defend against these types of manipulation? Well, definitely we cannot make spontaneous decisions under the influence of emotions and in the influence of time. Always ask yourself, why this situation, why this moment we are placed in is urgent? Why is it urgent? Is it really that urgent, or or this person is only making it be urgent? We have to stick to the procedures and follow the recommendations of either the employer internal regulation or our own procedures that we are used to. Because a good solution is to do an internal audit and basically ask ourselves if we should share some information with something, especially strangers, and always apply the principle of limited trust. Because the longer the people are talking with us and basically building this relationship, then we will be more likely to be manipulated. So don't be intimidated by them. In terms of forms of cyber attacks, so our section number 2, we'll start with one of the most basic attack, but also one of the most popular ones, which is called phishing. I can assume that probably most of you have at least once heard about what's phishing, but just to summarize all this knowledge, phishing is the most common and popular type of attack among criminals, and it often incorporates the social engineering tactics and methods that we have heard on previous slides and include a lot of communication channels, including emails, phone calls. In case of phone calls, we'll be talking about something which is called phishing, which you will see in the next slides. We also have got text messages, and in this case, we will talk about smishing, so SMS plus phishing. But phishing can also appear on social media and in malicious application. And basically, phishing is a way of cyber criminals to extort information from us using those channels. Cyber criminals often contact their victims by phone or by text messages, and these vectors are called phishing and smishing, so something that I have already mentioned a little bit. Phishing is a combination of phishing via voice or phishing via phone calls, and smishing is a combination of phishing and SMSs, so text messages we receive over our phone. But there's also one more type of phishing variation, which is gaining in popularity right now, and you might encounter it quite soon in your everyday life. And it is called quishing. So I guess you are all familiar with the concept of QR codes, which when scanned show us some links. And quishing is basically this type of a phishing attack that utilizes those QR codes to steal valuable data. And it is very popular because since phishing links can be quite easily now scanned via some email scanners or email servers that we are using, those QR codes are not that easy to detect, and they are gaining in popularity because of that. Malicious users can also put those malicious QR codes in some public spaces, so we also have to be aware of that. There are also some attacks called multi-directional attacks, which are being carried out by several scammers, and they are all carried out by using various technologies and social engineering techniques. So you will see in the next few slides some multi-directional attacks, which, for example, can combine a use of voice deepfake scenarios and something called a caller ID spoofing. If those topics do not basically mean anything to you right now, don't worry, you will learn about them soon. In terms of multi-directional attacks, we also get a term called omnichannel. So omnichannel simply means multiple channels, and this is also it is also used interchangeably with the terms that we have seen before, because cyber criminals often combine different types of attacks and they are using multiple channels in order to increase their success rate. And often it is being done when the stakes are very high and when the attack is is a type of an advanced attack and not just a very simple basic phishing attack. So I was talking about spoofing. So let's learn about what is spoofing. So spoofing involves impersonating another web user or a phone number or basically any other entity that can be impersonated. So it is very popular to spoof something called a caller ID, which for untechnical person, non-technical person, will be just your phone number, and it is quite commonly used by cyber criminals to fool their victims into thinking that another person is calling them. Usually, it's gonna be a person who they know. And during this fraudulent call, your phone will display a number or a name of a trusted institution if you have saved this phone number with the name of an institution or a person you trust. And I have prepared a little demonstration for you how this caller ID spoofing or phone call spoofing can work. And by the way, this is considered illegal in many countries. This demonstration was recorded by us in the United States, where it's funny because it's legal, but when you commit a crime with it, then it becomes illegal. So let's see what happens. We are basically calling the phone on the right from the phone on the left. And when we are calling normally, Mr. Chunky shows up. So the phone on the right sees that Mr. Chunky is calling. So we can use this little app for which we also have to pay. We have to pay for every phone call that we are making with this app. And there is a difference because first of all, we also have to provide a number which we are calling. It's normal, understandable, but also we have an option to put what number will be displayed on this spoofed phone. And we also have to select the length because it's paid. And look what happens now. Rocket CEO pops up. So someone will think that his CEO is calling, but we are still calling him from the phone on the left. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is the avatar and the name of the person that is calling, double quote, on the phone on the right. And that's one example how a device can be taken over and how caller ID spoofing or phone call spoofing can be used in bigger attacks. So have a look at this flow. So the victim is contacted by a person claiming to be a bank employee. The phone number is the same as the bank number available on the website because it has been spoofed. So this alleged employee informs the victim about disturbing transactions on the account. And obviously, the attacker tells the victim that they need to verify the identity and devirus, also in double quotes, the bank application because some disturbing transactions are happening. And in order to do this, he instructs the victim to install an application, in this case, TeamViewer, which is an application used for remotely controlling a device. And then the criminal gains the control of the victim's smartphone or a computer, so they can easily wipe their account or they can do anything that is possible to do remotely via this TeamViewer or AnyDesk app. And in some cases, even they can take a loan with the data of the victim. And that's all because the user has basically thought that a normal bank employee is calling him a legitimate bank employee. So how we can protect against these types of attack? Before we provide any kind of personal data, we should definitely always verify the identity of the person who asks for it. If we receive any unusual call, we have to be vigilant and verify the inquiry that is being targeted at us. What we can also do, if we are not sure about the person who is calling us, we can always hang up and then shortly after it, call the same number that was displayed. And if the phone number was spoofed, then when we will call the same number, we will call to the correct person, to the correct owner of this phone number. Obviously, we should never give out our payment card details during a phone call. And never disclose any incoming online banking codes, BLIK codes. In example, BLIK is a Polish standard for payments, something like a cash app if you are familiar with cash app. And always we have to read the content of the incoming messages very carefully. We've also got something called a deepfake, and this is a very popular topic right now in the era of artificial intelligence and machine learning models. So deepfake basically can be broken down into voice deepfake and image deepfake. And these are the types of media that have been synthetically created or manipulated using those artificial intelligence models. And they do often look very realistic, and scammers also use them to impersonate some famous people, artists, politicians, or they can be used to impersonate a bank employee, for example, or a close relative of us. And using a voice deepfake or an image deepfake with the combination of phone spoofing can be a very dangerous way of scamming someone. So, like I said, we've got voice deepfake. So attackers are increasingly often using the technology that allows for the voice forgery because it's more and more available. The audio deepfake, the voice deepfake, is based on cloning a voice sample of the owner of the voice, let me say it this way, to create a synthetic audio with the sampler voice. And usually we only need like a minute of a sample of the sampler's voice to create a quite accurate voice deepfake. We also got something called an image deepfake, and that's basically an image that combines a sample image with a target image. Usually it's being done on human faces using also the artificial intelligence technique. And here we've got an example where an actor, which is in real life is looking very similar to Tom Cruise, has been enchanted using some artificial intelligence models to basically look like a Tom Cruise very, very closely. As you can see, his face has been combined with Tom Cruise's face, and they were basically I'm not gonna say scamming because they have not used this for some malicious purposes, but they were fooling a lot of people to think that this is a real Tom Cruise. And in CQURE, we have also tried to generate some deepfake videos. In our case, we've been using some different models and applications to create a deepfake videos with Paula, our CEO and the founder. And I will show you now a few examples of how those deepfake videos have turned out using 3 different applications. And your job is to basically analyze them and see if they look real to you or not. So first of all, we've got this deepfake video, and it has been created with a software called Deepfake Lab, which is in our selection of applications the most advanced option, because it needs basically expects a user to have a lot of time and a lot of computing power to generate this deepfake video. And as you can see, it's not that good. It's, in my opinion, and in the opinion of people that we were asking, it's the worst out of the 3 that I will show. And that's because to use this software correctly, or to basically create a perfect deepfake video using this software, we need, as I said, a very strong compute resources and quite a long time. But we also have some applications which are creating these videos, and this video is a little bit better, and it has been all created via a web application. So the only thing we needed to do was to provide the source video, and then a sample of a face. In this case, it was Taylor Swift, to create an deepfake video with Paula, basically the body of Paula with Taylor Swift face. And this was a paid application, paid web application, but it was not that expensive. These deepfake creating applications are very, very cheap right now, and they can create those videos very fast, as you can see, as you will be able to see in this case. So this is an application called Reface. It's a mobile application, so we don't even need to have an access to our PC or our laptop. We can do everything from the position of our phone. The only thing we need to do is we need to select our video and then add a photo or a face that we want to add. In this case, it's Cameron Diaz. Let's click on swap face. And as you can see, it has been a little bit speed up for the purposes of the presentation, but it usually takes around 2 minutes, and we can get a very, very good deepfake video in a matter of seconds using only our phone. And this is the output of this tool. So right now, imagine that someone, for example, wants to target your children, and they call you. They call your children using the caller ID spoofing technique. So they will see that their mom or their dad is calling them, or for example, their uncle, and they will use those deepfake techniques to, for example, create an artificial voice of you or the uncle of those child. And I guess in most of the cases, those children, or maybe not even children, but people who are not familiar with these types of attacks, they might fall for it. So how we can recognize a deepfake? In this case, we will be focusing on a video deepfake, but we will also, in the next slide, focus on the audio deepfakes. So in case of an image deepfake or a video deepfake, we have to look at the blurred background, some random visual distortions. You can see where those arrows are pointing here and here. We have to also look for some blurry or undefined shapes. And what I like to also use is to pay attention to the area around the eyes and around the nose, because those areas are quite hard to correctly generate in an image deepfake video. So generally, pay attention to the eyes and the eyebrows and the whole area around it. If it's blurry or has some distortions, then it is definitely a deepfake, especially if the quality of the video is rather good. Because if the quality of the video is bad, it's also harder to recognize a deepfake, because we are not sure if the distortion is because the quality of a video is bad or it is really a deepfake. In case of audio deepfakes, we have to ask ourselves, and we have to determine if the voice we are hearing sounds a little bit robotic or unnatural, because those audio deepfakes do sound a little bit robotic or unnatural. It also depends on the kind of voice deepfake. Those professional ones, if I can say it, those advanced deepfakes, which were used with a lot of sample material, can be quite authentic. But again, if we will find a call to be spoofed or basically forged using the deepfake audio technique, we can use some challenge questions to challenge the person who is on the other end of our phone, so we will be able to verify the identity of the caller. If something like this happens in your company, or someone is calling you to your work phone, and you find that if something is not right, it's definitely recommended to report this occasion to the appropriate department in your company. Usually it's going to be a security company, a security department within your company. Okay, so section 3, email security. I guess most of you are using emails or have used emails sometimes or anytime. So it's also important to review the basic security principles of using email accounts or email mailboxes. First of all, it is recommended to never respond to some unsolicited emails which are asking for our personal information. We also can be a little bit suspicious of emails, and we should be suspicious of emails where the sender doesn't address us by name, and especially if he or she doesn't address us by name and basically requires us to give some personal information. If the email contains typos or looks unprofessional, these are all those red flags that should pop up in our head. If we receive an email with some links, it is also recommended to check where the links in the email lead before clicking on them. If we'll hover over the link in the email, it will usually show us what's the destination where we will be redirected after clicking the email. Also keep in mind that those cybercriminal emails aren't always designed to steal the information. So for example, they can be designed to install malware on your computer by clicking the link, which will basically redirect us to a download site, or running an attachment which was sent to us. So also be vigilant and be aware of those things existing. Talking about attachments and links. So those two things are the most popular email attacks, or basically they are the most popular ways how cyber criminals can attack us via an email. So we've got malicious attachments and malicious links. So let's start maybe with malicious attachments first. These are the files with some extensions which are impersonating invoices or other documents, and this is especially popular in a corporate environment. So we should definitely be aware of those extensions which are being sent to us. If we are receiving some attachments with .exe extension, as you see on the slide, this is also a red flag. There can be also some other infected documents. So for example, Word or Excel or PDFs, because those files can also have some malicious scripts inside them and can also do some harm. Most of the time, the scanners which are built in either on our devices or on email servers do a good job of simply detecting those malicious documents, but it's all the game of cat and mouse. It's all depending on how good can the attacker obfuscate those malicious scripts inside. The attachments may resemble documents in a familiar format, such as the PDF, but they can be actually intended for either stealing the confidential data or encrypting the data to make it difficult or even impossible for a company to function. So you might recall a term called ransomware. In this case, they can be also intended for taking control of our device or to install some spyware and spy on the activities that we are basically doing. Continuing with malicious attachments. The extensions of those malicious attachments can vary depending on the time of the attack and the context that the attacker is using. If we got some untargeted phishing emails, so they are not targeted at a specific group of people or at a specific individuals, those attachment types will be often in formats of .exe, .vbs, or .zip, for example, or .rar if we are talking also about the compressed formats, or .xls, so the Excel files. In case of a spear phishing attack where the malicious attacker is basically knows what type of people they want to attack, or they know what type of company they want to attack, they will most likely use the extensions PDF or XLS again, or doc, and they will name them accordingly with, for example, names such as invoices or the name of the companies, or they will say it's as, for example, a quote for some service. So what do you need to watch out for? Let's analyze this email together. As you can see, this is an email received from Agatha Frida, which is either Agatha Frida or is being called an Amara Kimberly. So that's one red flag which we should be aware of, and it's anyway being sent to us from it@sahabit.com message, and it contains a payment confirmation file attachment in an XLS format. So we've got one thing that basically is a red flag to us. So those names don't match. It has been quite poorly configured, poorly created phishing email. But also, we would like to ask ourselves, because how common is it to receive a payment confirmation in an XLS format, right? Usually it's going to be some sort of a PDF document. So that's another red flag. Why is someone sending us the payment confirmation in an XLS file? So this is definitely a phishing email. In terms of malicious links, so malicious links are part of those phishing attacks which are used by criminals to steal personal information or to deliver malware. And those links most often lead to fake sites or malware downloads. When we are basically redirected to some pages, in case of a phishing attack, those pages will look very confusing to us, because they will look very similar to the original ones. So it's all the matter of checking the URL that we are being basically redirected to, and also be aware of some shortened links, because they can lead to the infected website. So in case we've got some shortened link that we receive via an email, it's also possible to use some pages which are being basically named URL expanders, where we just paste the shortened link and then it shows us the full link where this shortened link is redirecting us. So that's one way you can also check and make sure that you are not clicking on a shortened link that leads to a dangerous site. How we can recognize fake websites when we are basically already connected to them. Definitely always carefully check the address of the website. As you can see in the screenshot here, we've got a website which is impersonating the Adobe website, but it has a little dot at the bottom of B. This is quite an old technique used by the attackers, because they were using some time ago letters from different alphabets, which were very, very similar to the alphabet we are using. So this is definitely not a normal adobe.com website. We always have to check for the address, and I will show you what to look for in the address in the next slide. But also keep in mind that the padlock icon, if you see these green padlock icons next to the URLs, this doesn't mean that it's a guarantee of a safe website. You cannot be basically you cannot base your knowledge of this website based on this padlock icon. All it informs us is that the page is using the website, the domain is using an encryption, and it encrypts the communication between us and the server, but it's never a guarantee of a safe website. On the other hand, when we are connecting to our website and we do get some pop-up such as this one, so your connection is not private, this means that there is something wrong with this certificate. So never ignore such warnings. There are some cases where website administrators forget to, for example, renew their certificate, and this is why we are getting this information that the connection is not private. But if we are sure about a website we are browsing to, or let me put it other way, if we are not sure about the website we are browsing to, and we do get an information that the connection is not private, this should also be a red flag for us, and we should also ask ourselves, do we really need to access this website? Can we not wait? Can we not wait a few more days if it's really a case of an admin forgetting to renew the certificate? So if you will see this pop-up, this is also quite often an indication of a malicious website. But nowadays, most phishing websites do have correct certificates because it's free to basically achieve the SSL TLS certificate and to have this green padlock. So that's why you should never trust it. It's very it can be done very fast, cheap, or even it's free to achieve this green padlock next to our website. In terms of checking the address of a website, what do we have to look for? So definitely swapping the order of letters or replacing letters with numbers or homoglyphs. So homoglyphs are those letters taken from other alphabets. Some browsers currently, such as Google Chrome, definitely are decoding those homoglyphs, so they are not longer working this perfectly, but that's not the case, I believe, for all commonly used browsers. But definitely swapping the order of letters, especially when we've got some bunch of letters such as I, L, I. So when we swap the order of letters, it's really hard to basically spot a difference. So that's one technique that the attackers use, and especially replacing letters with numbers, such as replacing L with number 1 is also one technique that is used. So some examples of attacks that are using the fake websites. So for example, hackers can send you a malicious link through an advertiser, which is supposedly necessary to collect the money for the product. Cyber criminals can pretend to be sellers and send you a payment link. And in fact, if we provide our card details, it will pass them to the cyber criminals. And the attackers can also send you links to accept some new terms and conditions on some website. And the fake page is designed to phish for login credentials. And such an example I also have prepared on this slide. So this is a fraud which is impersonating a Polish marketplace, very popular Polish marketplace website called Allegro. And this email message basically asks a user to it tells a user that they are introducing some new rules in their terms and conditions, and they have to accept those terms and conditions, because if they will not be accepted in the next 3 days, their account will be blocked. So as you can see, we've got those social engineering concepts, we've got those artificial time constraints in this email as well. So this email basically comes with grammatical mistakes, so that's a first red flag. It has a pretext of accepting those new regulations, and we are encouraged to take further actions. And if someone clicks on this accept button here at the bottom, it's gonna be the user is gonna be redirected to a website you see here. This is a page that resembles an original Allegro login page, but as you can see, the URL is completely different. This is not an Allegro website. So the fraudsters, using this pretext of logging in to accept the new terms and conditions, can basically fish for our login data. And as you can see in this case, despite this questionable address, which does not look in any way like an original Allegro website URL, it has the valid SSL TLS certificate, so it has that padlock next to the URL. We also have some frauds impersonating different marketplaces. In this case, it's on all leagues. We have two examples, which might be very popular in the near future because we've got the Christmas season coming up. We will have probably some Christmas or Black Friday discounts. So I guess most of you will be ordering something from the internet or ordering multiple packages. So this is also a time for malicious attackers to basically fit this spot and fit the need that the people are waiting for the communication from the sellers or from the delivery firms, and they will be basing their phishing methods and the attacks pretexts around those topics. So in this case, in this example, we've got a person who wants to sell a TV. In this case, so we've got Anne posts an ad about this TV on the marketplace. She receives a text message asking for a link to the offer from a person who says that is interested in buying it. The person responds and receives another message to a link to accept the order. And this link leads to a phishing website, some fake website, where our victim leaves her bank credentials. So she left her bank credentials, and then cyber criminals have their credentials to their bank account and can access them and deprive her of funds. So this is the case when we are selling something. But we are also in danger when we are buying something. And actually this scenario is a little bit more popular. So this is a fraud that we like to call parcel surcharge. So as I said, in the next few weeks, when we will be potentially ordering a lot of packages from the internet, we do not always track them in a very detailed manner. So when we will get a text from a very popular delivery agency, some maybe DPD or DHL or FedEx, about a package that has been stopped because it needs to basically we need to cover some surcharge and pay a little bit of money for an order, then we will not think that much and we will believe that we need to pay for some order because we know that we have already ordered something. And especially when the delivery company matches with the one we are expecting. So when we are getting these text messages about some mystery orders, we can be also requested for a link that will basically show us the information about the needed payment. And also the link will be the link to a malicious website, fake website, which is going to steal our data, and we can be deprived of our funds. So please make sure you are aware of those issues and aware of those scams. Okay, so we've got a topic now about password hygiene. Again, very popular topic as most of us are using passwords. I'm saying most of us because right now there's also a popular way of authenticating ourselves, which is passwordless, which is, by the way, very secure. And if you're interested in it, I do encourage you to read a little bit about some passwordless means of authenticating ourselves to different services. But before that, let's see how users create passwords. And this is basically a chart taken from the study of a guy named Troy Hunt, which is responsible for the Have I Been Pwned project, which basically gathers the information about the leaked passwords in the internet. And we can see that a quarter of people are using dictionary words for their accounts. So basically 47% of all accounts of all passwords analyzed were either dictionary words, common people names, place names, and dictionary words. So when users create those passwords and they want to strengthen their password, they often use some predictable patterns in terms of numbers or in case of special characters. In terms of numbers, it's usually 1, 2, 3. In terms of special characters, it will be also some exclamation marks or the hashes, for example. And as you can see, the random and strong passwords account for less than 1% of all analyzed passwords. So let's ask ourselves, how do cyber criminals steal passwords? Well, definitely they can use some social engineering techniques and make us tell them our passwords. That's one of the most common ways people are falling victim to those attacks. It can be also possible to intercept the password via network traffic interception, but some specific conditions have to be met in order to use it. But attackers can also, for example, purchase a database or basically gather an information about a database from a different source. They can extort the information from an attack, but as I can say, they can also buy the information about a database and buy the data that's stored inside there. And then if we are using the same passwords in many different places, and one of one of the website leaks, and we have the same password in different portals, then we will be in danger of losing our accounts. We also got an option of cracking, so exploiting the security vulnerabilities of computer systems, or something which is called keylogging. So if we already have been a victim of some attacks and a keylogging software has been installed on the computer we are using, it can be either our own computer or a publicly available computer in a library or on an airport where you, by the way, should never log into any website, and definitely any sensitive websites such as bank accounts. Again, going back to it, when we do write our passwords on a device that has been infected with a keylogging software, everything that we write on this device is being sent over a network to an attacker, and they can read everything in a plain text. So how we can create strong passwords? So, it's definitely very important to know about the concept of a passphrase, because passphrase is a type of password that combines many words into something easy to remember instead of using random or hardly memorable string of characters. As you can see, this third passwords is a passphrase. So cats are very cool with some numbers instead of letters, and we've got the exclamation mark or to be or not. In this case, it's for B. What is the question? That's also a passphrase, and this is also an example of a very strong password. As for the best practices and terms related to password hygiene, definitely don't use passwords from frequently used password lists. Don't use passwords that contain some predictable parts about, for example, some company name or some services, or, for example, the month that we are currently at, or for example, a season like I guess now it's going to be autumn 2024 is a very popular password. If it's not banned in many, if it's not banned in the authentication system, use two-factor authentication always where it's possible. Make sure that the password length is at least 12 characters, and use something which is called a full sentence rule, which is similar to the passphrase. So use a password that is, for example, at least 5 words long. So, for example, the cat climbed the tree. It can be also considered a passphrase, and this is a good practice to generate the passwords. But there's also one more way how you can store the passwords and how you can generate the passwords. And it is, I guess, in my opinion, especially the recommended way to store your passwords and to generate them. And this is via something called a password manager. It is a software that you store on your computer, your PC, or you can download an application on your phone where a database of passwords will be stored. It will help you generate some very strong passwords to the websites, and it will store all those passwords which are unique between the services you are using. And it only requires you to remember one strong password. So you only need to remember a password that encrypts the database of the password manager. And this ideally should be the password that is not being shared with anyone. So you are not using the same password to log in, for example, to your Facebook account. It's only a password used for the password manager. And from the KeePass database, you can also copy those passwords and paste them into the browser. And most of those password managers have also the possibility of automatically filling in your credentials when you are trying to access a website. A little bit about multi-factor authentication. It's also something that you should be aware of and you should implement because it's very, very useful in terms of security. So when we are authenticating to a service, we need to authenticate ourselves with the authentication factors. So when we are authenticating ourselves with only passwords, we are only using the something you know principle of multi-factor authentication. So we know the password, but the multi-factor authentication is basically a principle where we are using more than one factor, as the name suggests. So we are using something you know, so passwords, something you have. So, for example, our phones, where we store the information and where we have our authenticators and where we have our access tokens, and something you are. So, for example, an iris scanner or our fingerprints. So where it's possible, and nowadays it's usually possible in on most of the services that you probably use, we do recommend the usage of MFA. And that is especially when you are using some company and private email accounts, some banking services, some online stores, and your social media accounts. On the topic of social media, Section 5, safe use of social media. So let's think a little bit about what do we share on social media. Perhaps we share our date of birth, our email address, our school or family information, our hobby, or what we are interested in. In terms of using services like LinkedIn, we probably share our position, the company we are working for, sometimes also what we are doing in this company. So all this information can be used by cyber criminals to prepare an attack on us. So we have to be careful when we are using the social media about what informations do we share. And when we decide to share something, we have to also be aware that this data is publicly available and someone who is targeting us can be in possession of this data and can use this data to attack us. We also sometimes share the information about our geolocation, sometimes even without our knowledge. So, for example, some platforms such as Snapchat have a feature that continuously shares our location when we not disable it. Other platforms also suggest adding our location when we are posting some information such as Instagram or Facebook. So sharing our geolocation makes it easier to track us and can also lead to dangerous situations, especially if we are posting those information live and not in the next few days after the event has happened. Yes, so impersonation. We have to also know that this information that we provide on the social media websites can be used to impersonate us or our close friends or close family to trick their victims into sharing some confidential and valuable information. And combine that with the usage of deepfakes or voice deepfake techniques and spoofing techniques. This can also lead to very dangerous scenarios. So we have to make sure and we have to check our privacy settings because they are important because they allow us to gain more control over the data that we share. In most of those cases, we can limit who can see the data we are sharing and with whom we are sharing it. It's all done to protect ourselves. For those hackers, for those malicious users, social media is an ideal resource for gaining some basic knowledge about various people to use it and to generate attacks that have a broader context and have those pretexts which are making them more believable and therefore more possible to achieve their goals. How we can stay anonymous online. Make sure your posts are only visible to your friends. This can be also done in the privacy settings. If it's possible, hide your friends lists. Now we are talking about pages such as Facebook. And also be aware of who can see this personal information that we are sharing. So if someone who we don't know will, for example, contact us and tell us that he knows that we are working here and there, we are interested in these things and those things, we should know that this information is available. Try to, for example, Google yourself on the internet and try to check what is available about you. Maybe do it from another device that you are not using, or use an incognito browser. Try to see what information you are sharing with the public to just be aware of those information. All right, so section 6, children's safety in cyberspace. So it's also a very popular topic right now, especially with the amount of children playing video games and basically accessing internet resources and social media sites, because in those places they can be also exposed to various different attacks. So those young people, those children, they very often look for some social interactions in games, and those games are also created in a way that invite people, or they even reward people for performing some activities related to interacting with people. And this can also be used by criminals to either gather information about our children, or scam them and make them basically spend their money or even your money as a parent um, for some or send those resources to another people in the pretext of buying some virtual currency. And here I have some scams that can target your children, or basically any other children. So we've got two examples here where cybercriminals manipulate victims in games to, for example, um, send paid SMSs, text messages, to get benefits in those games. And they can basically install some malware on their devices under the pretext of receiving some facilitations. They can basically fall for installing some software that will help them play some games, or help that will tell them that it is an addition to the game, and they will install malware on their device. And they can basically fall victim to our websites, which are telling them that by logging into this website, they will get some virtual currency in some sort of a game if they only provide the information about their credentials. There are also scams related to those software that children are installing. So as you can see, this is one of those where when your child basically accesses, in this case, YouTube, and searches for some cheat, in this case for Fortnite, some aimbot software to, for example, cheat in a game. And let's be honest, who when it was earlier haven't tried doing so, or on any spare accounts. So by doing so, they can basically install some malicious and dangerous software that on their devices, on or your devices, if they are using your devices to play those games. What's also popular currently is that because of the rise of the games where we've got those microtransactions and those virtual currency and some items that cost real money, those games are also, maybe not those games in particular, but we do also observe some third-party websites that encourage children to simply gamble their money um, under the term of opening some, for example, cases, or gambling on the results of sport events with the items from those games, which basically costs real money. So those are very malicious websites that target children, and they try to introduce children to gambling from a very, very young age. What you can do as a parent is to do a little bit of research if the games your child is playing does have some parental control mechanism. So in this case, we've got Movie Star Planet that does require you to sign up for a parental control center, but you are able to basically control what your child is doing in these games. There are also some pre-installed applications, let me say that, on the most popular operating systems on the phones, where you can monitor the time spent in some individual applications. So you can see which applications your child is using the most. You can restrict the available content on the internet or set limits to manage the content and the applications that are your child is using. You can have a control over the installed applications. You have an ability to lock the child device or check the location of the child device. And you can also manage the applications that a child can use. In terms of application, those particular applications also have their own parental control settings, especially those most popular, such as TikTok, Instagram, or Snapchat. Each of them has their own parental control mechanisms that you can use and basically protect your children from the dangers that basically are waiting for them in the cyberspace. And this is very important to educate the children from an early age, because from the report published by Statista.com, we learned that 9 years old is the age at which children begin to use online resources independently, and the average time that teenagers spend on the internet is every day is close to 5 hours. Also, on a side note for this statistics, 40% of students believe that school education did not prepare them for life in a world based on modern technologies, and this does include the education about some cyber threats that are waiting in the cyberspace, let's say. Okay, so section 7, we are coming slowly to the end of our webinar, mobile security at home and on the go. So what are the risks when we are using our own mobile devices? We can obviously lose the device, or it can be stolen from us. That's one risk. The network traffic we are basically exchanging with some servers can be intercepted in a very in some specific cases, or we can involuntarily transfer some confidential data without being aware of doing so. So in terms of protecting ourselves from a device loss, we can use a password to protect our phone and the main access to our phone. We can also add passwords to specific applications to restrict the access to specific applications, even if someone will either guess the main password, or, for example, will steal our password when we basically unlocked our device. This is also recommended to store some extra copies of our data, for example, in iCloud, in at least 2 separate locations. So we can use iCloud or and other provider as a backup strategy. So if we do have some sensitive data or data that we critically need, it's best to store them in at least 2 separate locations to make sure that we will be able to access them when we will need it. So in terms of malicious USB devices, this also basically falls into the umbrella of mobile work and mobile devices, because those USB sticks or USB cables, which look like normal charging cables, can be also programmed to run specific scripts on your devices. And as a just to show you how popular it is, the US Homeland Security has also published a report where they stated that 60% of people who find USB devices left behind will connect them to their computer out of curiosity, for example, to check what's inside. If we will add a company logo to this device and, for example, throw it over the fence to a company premises, this number increases to 90%. And on this USB device can basically contain anything. It can contain even those malicious scripts I've been talking about. So also make sure that you are not using USB devices or USB cables, charging cables from an unknown source, because those threats do exist. And even if it's rare, it does happen, and those basically attacks exist. In terms of best practices for remote access, only ensure that only your work devices are allowed to connect to the corporate network. That's in case if you are managing an access to the corporate network. Make sure that safety policies that you are adhering to are adhered not only in the workplace and the office, but when you are working remotely. If you are trying to establish a remote connection to an internal company network, it should be made through a dedicated VPN connection through a software that was shared by your company, which will secure your access. In public, we have to make sure and we have to be aware about the dangers that fake Wi-Fi networks can cause, because there are some devices, there are some software tools that can create Wi-Fi networks that look like real ones. And when the victims connect to those fake Wi-Fi networks, it can basically be named the same way as some legitimate networks. In the case when we are waiting in an airport, or when we are waiting at the coffee shop, we can basically set up a man-in-the-middle situation where a hacker is listening to every information we exchange over this network. How you can protect your home Wi-Fi network? We've got seven points which you can implement to protect your home Wi-Fi network. First of all, change the default name of the network, because the default name of the network exposes the information about the firmware or the router you are using. And if someone will basically have an idea to attack you, he can research for some vulnerabilities this specific router or firmware has. Obviously, create a strong and unique password. Obviously, enable encryption if encryption is not enabled by default. It should be, but enable it if it's not. Check if it's enabled. Update your firmware. The updates of the firmware on those devices, they do not appear very often, but when it appears, it's recommended obviously to update the firmware, because those updates might patch some vulnerabilities. If it's possible, set up a guest network in your home network. So if your guest will come to your home, and then they will want to use your Wi-Fi network, they will connect to a guest network rather than your network where all your, for example, work devices are connected to. So even if their devices are infected, they will connect to a guest network, and basically this guest network will be the only one that the will be the only space that those infected devices will access, and not they will not have an access to your own devices, because they will be in another network, in another subnet, possibly. Obviously, we can use a VPN to basically tunnel our connection to a different site. And if it's not enabled by default, same as with encryption, use a firewall to protect the devices connected to your network. Again, it should be enabled by default, but if you are tech savvy, if you want to improve your security posture, it's also recommended to add some firewall rules on your home network to make sure that you are only receiving the information, you are only receiving the packets that you are expecting. Okay, so for summary, this is a summary of the whole today's webinar. So make sure, if you want to only take out those some 8 points, make sure that those are the 8 points that you will take out from this webinar. So first of all, make sure that be aware that everyone can be a target of criminals. So education is key to lowering the risk of an attack. You have to know that cyber criminals are using those social engineering tactics and mechanisms that I was talking at the beginning of this webinar to trick you into following their instructions. Also, make sure that you trust the sender before clicking on any link or opening any attachment. If you're in doubt, always double check. Mobile devices you are using are also often targeted by cyber criminals. Remember to be vigilant. Remember to be aware of the dangers that can happen. Social media create the perfect conditions for the development of new fraud techniques. So also be aware of the information that you are sharing. As I said, try to Google yourself and see what information about you will pop up on the web. Also, make sure that you are updated as you can about the new tricks, new tactics, or new pretexts that attackers are using, especially with the Christmas season coming up. Usually this Christmas season is the most popular season, and the season where most of these scams on the web, over the web, on the internet happen. Remember that by taking care of our privacy, we can reduce the risk of an attack, and also be aware against all types of phishing and other attack vectors. For example, those that we cover over the last 1.5 hours. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening. I hope that this webinar was useful and you basically had fun listening to me talking for almost 90 minutes. So thank you. If you would like to know more about us, about what we do, you can again scan the QR code. You have to trust me this time. This is not a phishing attempt. This is the real QR code. If you're vigilant, if you're suspicious, which I understand, you can also just browse to the CQUREacademy.com URL and see what do we offer. Okay, so let me just see one thing. Okay, so it's already 8:30, so we will wrap this webinar up. If you will have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact our team by writing into info@CQUREacademy.com or to my, if you have any questions to me personally, please write to my email address. If I can ask Kate or Dorothy to share my email address on the YouTube chat, I would be very grateful. It's Mateusz, my first name, with the Z, so double Z at the end, at CQURE.pl, and I will be very happy to answer any questions you might have. So once again, thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again sometimes, perhaps in one of our trainings. But now, have a nice rest of the day, or have a nice rest of the afternoon, depending where you are, and be secure, be safe, and take care. Bye-bye.